So we have a growing list of SDKs in our repo. And last year, I raised an issue about the Codegen needing to be simplified because there's a lot of duplication that every SDK needs to do to get to generate the clients at a high level design. What I think is that we need an abstraction layer on top of the introspection, which is common to every GraphQL API feature. And then we can move off to a central location every decision that we put, that we use, that are common or specific to Dagger, into this common layer, so that SDKs don't have to repeat them or have to know the rules. And so ideally, you could pre-process this in this common layer and then send the data to the SDK so that they just focus on the templating without caring about this logic or needing to figure out how things, many of the specific decisions that we need to take for producing Dagger clients. The way this works, basically, oh, by the way, I've been thinking for a while on how to make this easier, because I mean there's multiple languages. Some people want to use their own language, but we've been focusing on modules, and so I think it was natural for it to try creating a module that creates, that abstracts or encapsulates this logic or centralizes this. So this is what I tried. There's an introspection feature into this module that gets loaded directly into some types from introspection. The basis of this is that every GraphQL API has the ability to query its type system, which is very this. Let me just try this. You have this standard on the schema type name, so you can query lots of information from your API. And so you get this. These are the types, or object types that are on the API. So on with the module. Oh, by the way, the introspect, this query, this is big. It's like a standardized thing, and every module, every SDK is doing that. So you can see that every SDK has a copy of this GraphQL query, which is quite big. And then they have to use some libraries to get this data. This is JSON data into some objects and do something with that. So I can show some things that the module can do. For example, if you do the other call and oh, by the way, you can have the introspection query to have a sense of what that looks like, instead of having to have a copy of it in every SDK. If you need it, it's now centralized here. So this is the query. There's an introspect function that it's basically it makes this query and loads it into a data structure, which is automatically created as a sequence or chainable sequence of structs with fields in the API, or objects in fields. So we can actually introspect and take a list of objects names, for example. Again, introspect. Oh, it's just name. It's the name field, the name field of each object in the list of objects. Okay, so this is, you can also get, for example, a specific type. And let's see, to take something out of the way here. Okay, sorry. can get all fields from container. And for example, name words is one example of splitting the words of those fields so that it's easier for SDKs to convert that into their like naming conventions without having to have some logic that can become inconsistent on how they split these words from the fields. And this also keeps like capitalization on certain initialisms, common initialisms. You can also like get a specific field. Let's say an exec, but I just want to know the optional args. So this is something that like you get already a list of normally from the introspection query, you have a list of types, and then you have to see if the type is what's the kind of the type and all of that. But this helps, these are small details, like you have a list of objects, you have a list of scalars, you have a list of enums. Then you have, for a field, you have a list of optional args, required arguments. So there's a lot of small things that you don't no longer have to do. On the implementation side, you can see that it's just loading the resulting JSON into this kind of structure, which is very simple. This comes from the built-in introspection in that GraphQL has. And there's a few like output functions that you can access to get these things, the optional arguments required. One specific one, the type is optional. Is it a leaf? Is it an object? And so forth. The way you use it in the point is not just used from a CLI, of course. The idea is to depend on this module from another module. So you can have like the runtime module of an SDK, which is a module that creates the execution environments to run an SDK's code. And so you can either do that or do something else that you require this kind of introspection, just access through the generated clients like this. So I'm gonna send a link. Just put me the link of this module here on Discord. There's a bit more explanation on the source, like there's a README. And these are, for example, some of the decisions that you can centralize that instead of everyone having to repeat it is, for example, to know when to execute or chain in a field, like with exec, it's chaining, centered out is executing a query. When you have to convert ID to objects, is the type IDable, which means it has an ID field. Like formatting names consistently, adding custom errors, which doesn't exist now. Gonna add those now. Renaming the query to clients. It's already sorted, by the way. All of that stuff. Yeah, you just check it out, and there's some steps for some things that I want to try next. And this is there's a bit of a performance problem that's explained here. You just check it out, and maybe it's useful to you as well. But I think there's potential to explore this.
Nice, thank you, Helder. I have one question for you actually. I saw in your README that you were talking about some use cases that were unlocked and some ideas you had, especially around a GUI, for instance. Like, how far did you go, even if it's just in your head, in terms of how to leverage the Codegen API? Like, what can you tell us more about some ideas you have?
Yeah, that's very old idea of just having like you see just on a company I worked for, like we had multiple websites. It was a net web agency, so you had I wanted to have like a a platform, an internal website, so a platform that you can configure, or my colleagues could configure, like send this website to, like it's a Django, Python, or it's PHP, or it's multiple languages. And so I wanted to do that, or abstract that away, simplify it with Dagger, but it requires also introspection to look at the API and see what's there and create the buttons and interface based on that introspection inside this internal website, this application, basically. Yeah, so that's basically what the CLI does today. It does a bit of introspection, looks for what you have in which functions, some of that. So that's the base idea. It's just another kind of client.